Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Jeremy Emmy, 827 10.5 Street Southwest, Rochester. So I just wanted to thank you for.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, may Mr. Emmy take off his mask so it's easier for us?
Oh, that's what we do.
Yeah.
You're comfortable doing that.
I
We
am,
don't want
you're
It's
comfortable.
just easier to hear
Don't
you.
want to, you don't have to.
rumble
That's fine.
in the voicing.
Thank you, Commissioner. Here as Housing Director of the Coalition for Rochester Area Housing and also representing the Rochester Area Foundation, I understand the deep need for affordable housing in Olmsted County. And as a community, we've been underproducing housing units of all types, including affordable housing, for many years now. We need significant investment in affordable housing from the public and private sectors to truly move the needle and build on the recent successes of the past few years. Our county will continue growing at a pace of over 15% this decade, which is fantastic, but unfortunately in housing, this growth is an added challenge for our county. And absent some type of subsidy, it's not possible to produce housing units that are affordable for households making less than 60% of area median income. American Rescue Plan Act funds will help ensure that we and our partners can leverage the production of thousands of new housing units in the county in the coming years, and that families who work in Olmsted County can also live in Olmsted County. Thank you for considering the use of American Rescue Plan Act funds for affordable housing in Olmsted County. This is an investment that will increase opportunity for our residents and quite literally strengthen the foundations of our county. Thank you. And also just wanted to add that our partners at Mayo Clinic were not able to attend today, but did kind of sign on to that statement as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. And are we? Oh, this is just someone. Is this someone who wants to talk? Michelle, did you want to be part of the public comment period?
Is there anyone appearing virtually who would like to make a public comment?
Is there anyone appearing virtually who would like to make a public comment?
Guess not.
I guess not. All right.
Madam Chair, I do believe Jenny would like to note.
Oh, yes.
Here today.
Morning.
Hi, thank you. Glasses are fogging up. I'm not used to the mask again.
Take your mask off.
When you're talking, it's easier to hear.
Yeah, thank you.
If you wish, you don't have to.
Yeah.
No, thank you. My name is Ginny Rittman, and I'm the Executive Director with Workforce Development, Inc., a nonprofit organization here in Southeast providing employment and training services. So I more or less just wanted to make sure that you were aware that I was here. If you have any questions for me as you're talking through the CARES Act proposals and the workforce development work that we're doing here in Olmsted County, we have a lot of career pathways initiatives and a lot of exciting things happening underneath workforce development and employment and training. So I, again, just wanted to make sure that my presence was known in case you have any questions as you move forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, so we will now then call the meeting to order. This is the Olmsted County Board of Commissioners meeting for August 3rd, 2021. And we will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I wanted to ask if Ashley was here yet.
Madam Chair, I think we're pushing that oath back.
Yeah, I'll push that oath of office. We'll ask again later. All right, we then will move on to the consent agenda. Proclaim August as Child Support Awareness Month. Approve the minutes from the July 20th, 2021 meeting. Approve the split of a tax forfeited parcel 74.3 36.43.020.762 into 3 new parcels. Approve consent by the American Tower Alliance to sublease space on Graham Park Cell Tower for new Dish Wireless LLC equipment. Approved donation from the Olmsted Wabasha County Corn and Soybean Growers Board. Approved the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant called the JAG Program Funds Memo of Understanding with the City of Rochester. Are there any questions about the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Now move on to the regular agenda. The first item is to approve the 2021 tax forfeiture class price and sale. Mr. Krupski.
This is always a procedure. Okay, we got it off. Good morning, Commissioners. Mark Krupski, Director of Property Records and Licensing, here to talk about setting the values and the classification for about 12 tax forfeited parcels. This is the process where the first step where we establish price and classification. And then when there's actually going to be a sale, we come back again for approval for that sale for whatever remains. Because some of these properties may be of interest to the local units of government or our HRA for affordable housing. So you'll note that there's some values placed on these properties that there's a difference between the minimum bid value if it was just go to public auction versus the HRA, and that's to assist in the process of making affordable housing more affordable. With that said, I know there may be some questions about the HRA value, which I'd be happy to entertain.
Madam Chair, note that he's looking at me.
I saw that.
I did contact Mr. Krupski to ask about this. And so I have as usual, kind of a series of questions. But the biggest issue is we are making a really big commitment today to affordable housing with the ARP funds. We have been learning over time how to handle these tax forfeiture properties so that we can make them available to our HRA and to not-for-profit partners in the community who build affordable housing. So we have a new category here today in our tax forfeiture properties of a recommended HRA sale price, and we have 6 properties that are residential or potentially residential that are in tax forfeiture. And so in speaking with Mr. Krupski yesterday, it's my understanding is that the sale price sets the minimum bid for a public auction. And I wanted to understand how we determined the discount for an HRA sale price, and if that's a minimum bid. And full disclosure, he was very kind to call me while he was returning to Minnesota from a wonderful trip that I wish I could take down the Snake River. So he said he would have some answers today. So he knew what I'd be asking.
Sure.
So now you know what I'm asking. How did we determine the value? Why just it looks like about a 1/3 to 25% to 1/3, 30% discount for HRA. And if our goal is as an organization, as a county, to really incent the development of affordable housing, why those prices? Is it negotiable? Have we conferred with our not-for-profit organizations? I've got a lot of questions. So,
Sure.
Mr. Krupski.
I don't know if there's any specific science between the two values, but we wanted to, this has been the practice. We've been doing this for about 3 years, making properties affordable, the HRA. We do have some comparable sales of what we've done this prior that you don't have in front of you, but we had one over on 18th Street Southwest. So it was really off of Broadway going up, I think, in the Golden Hills area. We sold this property to Habitat for Humanity, and we thought they were going to rehab it. They bought it for about 20,000. They decided to tear it down, so it cost another 8,000 according to the permit. It may have been more at that time. I'm not sure. So there's about 28,000 initial investment, and then they split the lot. They could have two lots there, and they built two houses that they actually sold. One sold for 285,000. The other one sold for 325,000 over there. So, but that was a $20,000 sale price, uh, and they were able to turn it around and probably, I don't know who bought them, but that certainly would have been helpful to both maybe an affordable homeowner and putting more funds maybe in the coffers of Habitat for Humanity. The other one of note was over on is over here in Northeast on 9th Avenue. First Homes purchased that. They had to demo that. It was a 13,960, so we'll say 14,000. They bought that lot for 2,500. I think they came back. They were originally with the price I believe was about 5,000, and then they came back and asked for a discount once they got the price of the demo, and then they went on to sell that property for 185,000 last year, which it's interesting or kind of amazing to note that 185,000 is an affordable home today in Rochester. So our values in that particular case was roughly around 16.5 after the demo. So when we look at the two properties that are improved, one we must demo, the ones that are available today, and the county will bear the cost of that. It's a manufactured home, so we have to pay for that, and our costs are about 15,000, excluding disposal costs. That's just to get it out of there, and then we have to pay whatever the price is to by the tonnage where they bring the Calmar landfill or wherever. So that one at 15,000 probably is a viable price that would be pretty affordable. But the other property we have that's over on South. Let me find that one here. I believe that's the. I'm getting a little lost here, Katie. Let's see. On 18th Street Southeast. That's the one. Okay. So that particular property, that has a house on it that could possibly be rehab, but it also has a cave-in on the roof over the bathroom. So uh, somebody may decide, you know, we'll just tear this property down. So with that said, that might be something we'd want to consider there, because if the cost is 15 to 20,000 to get rid of, do the demo costs and so forth, and they paid 15, now they're in it as a base cost of 35, which is not a high price for a lot of land. However, if we're seeking to encourage the affordable housing, we certainly can adjust that value. We can adjust any of the HRA values. I wouldn't recommend the minimum bid price to the public, because I think that's a viable price. And then the other four properties, they're vacant land over on Rose Drive Southeast, and there aren't any cost to demo. However, there'll be sewer and water hookup fees there.
So, Madam Chair, Mr. Krupski, I represent the county board on the First Homes Board, and I know that that property that they acquired ended up being very costly because it turned out it was a hoarder had lived there, and there were a lot of issues with demoing the property. My concern today, and then I did go to the Habitat ribbon cutting, and they were very ecstatic about that, and two families now have homes that otherwise couldn't have been affordable. And for the First Homes one, they put them into the community land trust, so that'll always be why the 185,000 will actually stay in the community land trust. So um, my concern is that I'm glad to hear you say that we are negotiable on the HRA sale price, because I really think that we're going to be approving a substantial amount of money this morning for housing, I think we can deal with we have through the coalition and housing, we have partnership with the city. So as we, for instance, look at those Rose Drive Southeast, maybe the city could forego some of their connection fees to make them even more affordable, and our not-for-profit providers, be it Three Rivers, First Homes, Habitat, or our own HRA, then have even, we want to keep their costs down so that the house can be affordable, and we aren't foregoing much revenue. So you're telling me you haven't met with them, and I'm wondering if Mr. Dunn has any comments about if you've had a chance to look at these, or can we confer with our not-for-profit partners in setting this rates, or see if any of them are prohibitive?
Yeah. Good morning, Commissioner Podolsky, members of the board, Commissioner Cascaden. To answer your question, the short answer is I think we initiated a process a few years ago when we had those houses and lots available. We could do something very similar this time where we would make that offer or the opportunity of these lots once they move forward for all of our nonprofits to see if they're viable. We have not completed that evaluation ourselves yet, so I'm not sure what they look like.
So were you conferred with as these prices were set? Or have you had conversations internally or with our not-for-profit partners?
We have not had those conversations of yet. We've had just some very initial conversations about the property. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Kupski, would it be appropriate to request that we hold on the HRA sale price till there's been that opportunity to confer? Or are you saying that that is a suggested retail price or suggested foreclosure price and you're open to negotiation?
We're certainly open to negotiation, and if, the main goal is not so much, in some respect, we want to do due diligence for our citizens, so we want to get the most money for the property, to get back, to recover our costs. So in particular, that statement would more or less apply to the commercial property that's in Orinoco, that it will be for auction. I'm not sure if that's on this list, but it'll be on the auction later. That's a commercial property up there on Highway 52. Whole different situation. It's not affordable housing. But in this matter, I think our goal is to get something for affordable housing and get these properties back on the tax rolls. So I would say as a minimum recommended price for the HRA, almost you could be very, very negotiable, as low as, I understand, like the sewer water fees could be 20 to 25,000 on those lots. And again, that's out of our hands, but the city could maybe adjust something there. So if the county wanted even to go to $1,000 on the $2,000 lots, that'd be fine. And then on the lots that need demo, I don't see any issue with reducing those further to something even as such as we did with the First Homes property, which was 2,500. So, but again, this is the board's decision, and but we certainly wouldn't have any objection to any of that.
Madam Chair, I'm wondering if we need to, I'm looking at Mr. Conan, and I'm wondering if we need to amend our board resolution to indicate that the HRA recommended sale price is subject to negotiation with the acquiring not-for-profit. Are we covered enough by the conversation we've had this morning?
No, I think if the board is supportive of having a lower value there, that you should reflect that in the resolution.
Commissioner Beer?
Yeah, I'm in favor of that with a little caveat. I would like to hear from the city and make sure, because like say, I mean, that sewer charge, $25,000. I would, and they're interested in affordable housing too. I'd like to, we have a team approach, and they would be willing to maybe move a little bit on that. So, if we're going to set it down to 1,000 or whatever we're going to set it to, I'd like the caveat that we're all in it together.
Well, Madam Chair, Commissioner Beer, with Mr. Emmy in the room, the Coalition for Affordable Housing is a coalition of it's a donor advised fund. So the city is an active participant in that coalition, and maybe the coalition could take that possibility up as as a recommendation from the coalition to the city that they waive or significantly reduce those connection fees for those Rose Drive properties. I don't want to put Mr. Emmy on the spot, but I guess I already have. That might be something, I don't know if he wants to comment on.
Sure. Yeah, I think in our discussions with the city that it's been made fairly clear that they're willing to look at those possibilities on fees for in a variety of cases within the city of Rochester, and so I'm happy to have those conversations with the city staff that we partner with in the coalition.
We have a coalition meeting coming up, so thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Krupski, are we under some time pressure to make this decision today, or would you advise that we table it until that other discussion happens?
Actually, I'd probably advise that you just adjust those values now. I don't know if you're in agreement with that, because it starts the clock ticking of when we can actually move ahead with the period that they can make those actions,
Could we
take
approve
those steps.
everything and then come back and look at the HRA?
I think we could change, can we not change the HRA values right here on the resolution, Tom?
Yes, you could, and actually statute also provides that there's a period of time, basically once this clock starts ticking, where you're supposed to formally offer it to local governments in the area, including the HRA, so they'll have an opportunity to pursue it once that window of time opens.
Well, the question, Tom, do we always have the right to reject any and all bids when it comes back to us too. So we could adjust them down to 1,000, and then if we can't work out something with these sewer fees, we could, and it comes back at 1,000, and we can reject any and all bids, can't we?
If you structure the resolution that way, yes.
That's the way I'd do it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to also note, Katie Miller, property tax manager, that once you guys approve it, we have to send letters out to all the authorities. So the county, the HRA, all the cities would get the letter. They have 60 days to say, hold it from sale. They have then 6 months to decide whether they want to purchase it or use it for public use. So the HRA could say, yep, we want to look at these, and then in 6 months say, no, we're not interested. So they have time to look at that. So.
Thank you.
So are we thinking of changing the wording then of the resolution?
Ken, do we need to revise the resolution in any way?
Let me look at the resolution language here quickly. So in essence, you're referring to parcel ID, the one that's listed as number 2, which is at 1918 17th Street Southeast, would be 1.
That's the first one.
Okay.
We were talking 2,500, possibly.
So the line that says recommended HRA sale value $15,000, you propose that you just put in 2,500
Replace
on
that
that
with
line?
2,500. Pardon me?
That one's the mobile home that we have 15,000.
Right. No, I understand that. And then the 4 after that would be 1,000. And then the
Again, the HRA sale value.
Sale number 8, again 2,500.
The HRA sale value line would
Right.
be the only one on
HRA,
each one of those that's changing.
Right.
Okay.
So we'll be changing item 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and number 8
Madam Chair,
as indicated.
I'd be happy to move that amendment to the proposal.
There's a second to add an amendment to the proposal that we change the HRA, recommended HRA sales value for parcel number 2, 2,500, for parcel number 3 to 1,000, parcel 4 to 1,000, parcel 5 to 1,000, parcel 6 to 1,000, and parcel 8 to 2,500.
Correct.
And are we putting in there too, that we have reserved the right to reject any and all bids?
Would that have to be a separate amendment? Would you like that added to your
I
amendment?
thought it was a standard procedure, but
Well,
It
I'm
is.
looking at Tom for that.
Again, I'm looking in the resolution to see if it already addresses that. I would add language to that effect because it doesn't really address that now.
Sure. Would you like to,
I think that's a friendly amendment.
let's see, do we need to vote on that, adding that friendly amendment to your amendment?
I second it.
Okay, oh,
So why don't I withdraw my amendment and offer a revised amendment?
Okay.
all right.
I move that we adjust the HRA recommended sale price as previously outlined with the proviso that we can reject any and all bids.
Okay.
Any questions or discussions? All those in favor of that
Madam Chair, I
amendment?
don't believe I have a second yet.
I
Oh, we do, sorry. Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of that amendment to the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay.
The amendment passes. Now we need to accept the whole resolution.
I move the second.
Any question or discussion? All those in favor of the resolution as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Thank
Thank
you
you very
Mr.
much.
Madam Chair, thank you to Mr. Krupski for taking my call on his way back from a wonderful trip and for being prepared to answer all these questions.
Well, now he's back in the swim.
He's back in the saddle, all right?
Our next discussion item is Towards Zero Death, TZ0 ZD update. Who's going to speak about that?
I will be the one speaking about that, Abby.
Oh, there you
Tricker.
are. Okay.
And thank you for letting me join online. I appreciate that. So I'm going to share my screen. Are you all able to see if I do share my screen, just to make sure? I think the PowerPoint's also included in
Yes,
your
we
pack.
can see your PowerPoint on our screen.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so thank you again for having me. I'm Abby Tricker, and I'm the Safe Roads Coordinator for Olmsted County. I also work at Public Health. Today, I've also asked Jessica Schleck, the TZD Southeast Regional Coordinator, Scott McConkey, the Southern Minnesota Law Enforcement Liaison, and Michelle, the Sheriff's Office TZD Coordinator, Enforcement Coordinator, to join me in case you have questions that I'm not able to answer. Right. So yearly, I try to come to a board meeting to provide an update to you all on what the current traffic crash trends are in the state and locally, and to let you know about some of the things we're doing to try to reduce the number of crashes on our roads. Unfortunately, in 2020, I wasn't able to provide an update because of COVID-19, which I'm sure doesn't surprise you all. So a little bit about what TZD is. Our mission is to move Minnesota towards zero deaths on our roads using education, enforcement, engineering, and emergency medical and trauma services, what we call the 4 E's. In the last few years, though, we've added a fifth E, which is everyone, because it is everyone's responsibility who shares our roads to drive safely as well. It's a shared effort. I also just like to highlight that so TZD is a statewide initiative, and there are several regions across the state, which are shown on the screen. We're part of the Southeast region, and Jessica Schleck, we're lucky to have her as our regional coordinator. And like I said earlier, she's joined us too. All right. So the Towards Zero Deaths initiative was established in 2003 when it was noticed that the number of fatalities on Minnesota roads was trending upward. Since 2003 and the inception of TZD, we have seen a 42% decrease in traffic fatalities. Unfortunately, our downward trend has leveled off and even started to trend back up, especially if you look at the numbers of fatalities in 2020 and so far in 2021. We still need to celebrate our success, though. so I don't want to take away from that. If the 2003 trend continued until 2018, and that's not even trending up, but just it stayed at where we were in 2003, and we hadn't seen those decreases in fatalities from the work of traffic safety partners, we would have lost at least an additional 3,355 lives. So in other words, we've saved that many lives through the TCD work and other work of traffic safety partners. This is certainly something to be proud of, but there's still lots of work to do. So I also like to share this just because it's funny to me. And I also at Public Health do help the car seat program. So this really speaks to me as well because of that. It's an advertisement for a auto strap for tots in the front seat. And it just hits home how far we've really come in traffic safety. I can't imagine, I have a toddler who's 3 years old. I can't imagine her being strapped in like that and running around in the car. Talk about a distraction.
You didn't even get a strap.
Wow.
So we really have come a really long way when you look at this.
Wow.
Word at the back of the station.
So the miracle we're still here.
So, in addition, there's behavior change, there's engineering changes. There's also been lots of legislative milestones in the past few years. So much of the progress we've seen over the last 18 years can be tied to different legislation passing, such as the reduction from 0.1 to 0.08 blood alcohol content for DWIs, the passing of the primary seatbelt and booster seat law, and most recently, the hands-free law. Each of these legislative milestones help encourage driver behavior change so our roads are safer. Not hopefully surprising to you, I feel like the number of fatalities and speeding trends have been on the news quite a bit lately. But in 2020 and 2021, we've had really challenging years, not only because of COVID and social unrest, but also on our roads where we have seen a dramatic increase in crashes and fatalities. Here are the year-to-date fatalities as of yesterday. Though Jessica informed me that there were no fatalities yesterday either, so that's wonderful news. So the numbers haven't changed. But these are the year-to-date fatalities on Minnesota roads for the years 2019, 2020, and 2021. Last year, we as traffic safety folks were discouraged at seeing the increase in deaths. But 2020 pales in comparison to this year's tragedies on our roads. 63 more people have died on our roads this year than at this time last year. In addition, we've added ATV deaths in our count as well because we've seen a troubling increase in crashes with ATVs. There is one bright spot in this dismal situation. The Southeast region has been seeing a downward trend in fatalities over the past few years. Looking at the last 6 years, at this point in time regionally, we are at our lowest fatality count, which is fantastic considering. And Olmsted County is also trending lower at 4 fatalities this year. But just one fatality is too many. I wanted to include this fatal and serious injury crash map just because it's helpful in seeing where we're seeing crashes. And if you look at the color coding, you can see where there's the yellow is there's been one crash that was fatal or serious injury. And then if you go down the scale, the blues, pinks, and purples indicate that there was more than one crash that resulted in a fatality or a serious injury. So this is just something that's a good visual. And then we, as traffic safety folks, can look at this map and say, here's some trouble spots maybe we need to look at doing something different, be it with engineering primarily, or is it something else that we need to look at as well?
Mm-hmm.
So this slide shows how factors contribute to highway crashes are interconnected. So driver behavior, infrastructure, and then the vehicle. While the state transportation departments are focused primarily on the roadway or the infrastructure aspect of the equation, we try to also look at the human factors and human behavior, and also collaborate with the auto industry and other associations to make improvements to vehicle safety as well. But I think it's really important to hit home that driver error contributes in some form to approximately 93% of highway crashes. The roadway environment, including things like roadway design and then weather related factors such as darkness, rain, snow, ice, contribute to about 34% of crashes. And then the vehicle itself, like a mechanical failure, blown tire, that contributes to about 13% of crashes. So currently, the culture seems to be that accepting that driving is just something that you happen to be doing, and that's about it. We need to change that if we want to see our fatalities start trending down again. We need to shift that attitude to one of accepting the truly huge amount of responsibility, liability you accept when driving a vehicle. So I did want to highlight some of our local efforts. I will say that because of COVID-19, we have not been able to make as much progress in the last year and a half, and have been limited in what we've been able to do. But I still want to just let you all know what we have been working on over the last few years and what we hope to continue to do. So one thing has been supporting state, local, and organizational policy development. So I've gone out and done presentations for work sites around safe driving, and then also talked to organizational leaders about policies and consulted with them about things that they could change with their policies to keep their employees safe, especially if their employees drive as part of their work. And then also advocating for the passing of the Minnesota hands-free law, in addition to supporting it when it got rolled out. So doing outreach at local community events like Thursdays Downtown, Safe City Nights, and social media support as well. We also do distracted driving education. So these are the numbers through 2018 to 2020. March 2020, because we weren't able to go into classrooms or do community events after that. But in that time period that we were able to, we reached over 2,600 community members around distracted driving education. We've done 20 social media campaigns that have shared a unified message that helps support the local law enforcement waves through 2018 to the present time, in addition to doing like traditional media and news conferences. We haven't been able to do our seatbelt challenge for a couple of years now because of COVID, but prior to COVID, and every May, schools would do their own seatbelt challenges, and then the winners of those seatbelt challenges in each high school would participate in a championship for the county. And it was just a really fun way to get kids involved. It hit home the importance of wearing your seatbelt, but also allowed for building relationships with local law enforcement and their school resource officers. And it was just a fun event. So hopefully we'll get back to doing that again in the near future, maybe next school year. Cross my fingers. We did in 2019 some motorcycle safety education and promotion around the flood run time period. And then lastly, we've done some activities around pedestrian safety. This was something that was new to TZD. There wasn't a real focus on pedestrian safety until 2020, which I was super excited about. Unfortunately, with COVID, it limited what we were able to do. But we did have an opportunity to do a small education campaign with a video, some social media posts, and then had yard signs that had pedestrian safety messaging distributed to county schools at the start of this past school year. So September of 2020. Lastly, I like to just hit home the message that we all play a part in traffic safety. So just some friendly messages or things to think about as you all drive out on our roads. One thing is to slow down. We've seen a substantial increase in the number of folks speeding and also an increase in those speeding over 100 miles per hour, which is crazy. Don't drive impaired, obviously. Buckle up. This is one of the easiest things you can do to protect yourself. Follow local traffic laws. And then lastly, don't drive distracted. And I like to highlight this one because I think we often think of just cell phones as being a distraction. And obviously, we want you to put your phone down, but there's lots of other things that can distract you as well, including changing your music. Or other controls within the car. So get that all pre-programmed, set up before you leave on a trip. If you're going to use a navigation system, enter the address of where you're going beforehand. Don't enter it in the middle of your trip to wherever you're going. Avoid messy foods and secure your drinks. If you have children, teach them good behaviors right off the bat. Model those good behaviors so when they start driving, they don't pick up on any of your bad habits. And lastly, as a passenger, you can also speak up to stop drivers from either driving distracted or any of these other things, speeding, buckling up, etc. And if you see them do something as a driver that they shouldn't be, you can offer to also help them. So take over whatever that task might be that they're trying to do that's taking their attention off the road. So 0 is attainable, though right now it looks kind of daunting at the moment with our current numbers. But it'll take all of us working together to get there. So we're going to keep pushing forward. Any questions for me or for any of the other guests that have joined me, Jessica, Scott, or Michelle?
I have a question.
Commissioner Wright has a question.
Yeah, my question deals with cell phone use. I know that the state legislature passed laws restricting cell phone use. So, but what have you seen as far as that contributing to accidents? And is that more or less than other situations?
I might go to Jessica. I haven't seen any current numbers. I would say we've seen an increase lately with speed. I haven't heard if there's been an increase in distracted driving cell phone use as a cause for crashes.
Yeah, I haven't seen any numbers for that either this year, but I can certainly get the 2020 or 2019 numbers to Abby to get to you if you'd like. I don't know if Michelle has any comments about what you're actually seeing on the roadway. I know a lot of law enforcement agencies and just the average person are saying they're seeing it a lot more than they were. Abby or Michelle or Scott, do you have anything to add?
I think, well, greetings, everybody. First of all, I thought the first question was going to be, what's that old guy doing with all these young people? Just so you know, I was your night trooper for a number of years. In fact, started in the mid 80s to the mid 90s. And I worked with your sheriff, Kevin Torgerson. And if you like your sheriff, I taught him well. If not, well, maybe I confused him with someone else. But lot of respect for Sheriff. Um, it's a good question, and we're seeing it across the board that we're getting an uptick in all violations, and distracted driving is huge. Speed is just kind of off the charts, um, and it just seems we're going through a phase where law enforcement and government as a whole is seen as either irrelevant or it's a disdain for any rules, or um, that government and law enforcement is restricted and unable to respond due to COVID and other issues. So yeah, to your question, we're seeing upticks in that in a lot of areas. And that's kind of my take on it. Someone else might see it from another angle.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
it seems to me as I'm on the road a little bit more now than I had been in the last year, and it feels to me like driving behavior has changed immensely. It feels sometimes like as I'm driving down the road, um, slightly over the speed limit because that's what I do on the highway, like a lot of people. I'm in the totally slow lane, and it feels like people are literally. Sometimes I think they are actually running races, weaving in and out of cars and racing against each other. Maybe much like we are seeing happen somewhat in the Twin Cities. So it feels to be, and I've noted more state patrol and county sheriff's vehicles out to try and calm that down. But it does seem like um, we've seen a very big change in driving behaviors that place people at more risk. And I'm just making that observation. Um, Also, just wanted to note that some of us have been contacted by people who are We Bike Rochester and others that are concerned about bike safety. And it's my understanding that the Towards Zero Deaths group will be taking up, be partnering a little bit more with some of our bike advocates around the safety issues. And I'm pleased to see that because I think that's where it fits nicely, where we've got as I've come to learn of enforcement and education and emergency response um, in a collaborative effort. But it's one of those conundrums of modern life where things change, the culture changes, and it's hard to pick where did it start and how do you do a course correction. So I'm glad we have this collaborative effort available in our community and in our state.
Well, Commissioner Cascaden and Abby, I think that the COVID crisis has frustrated people at their core. I mean, we see it in air travel problems, acting out on airplanes, acting out in stores, acting out at restaurants, and acting out on the highways as well. I'm hoping that if we return to some semblance of normalcy, that people will get their manners back. But it's like as if everyone has been rubbed raw, and we just have to be more patient with people. I think a lot of people have gotten bad news. A lot of people have had tragedies in their families and their friendships, and they're lashing out in the only way they can, since they can't beat the COVID. Um, so they're finding some other way to release all that pent up um, frustration and anger, and we're going right back into it again. So um, this is wonderful what you're doing, and I hope that we will recover our balance again in our behavior. And I th- did you get your answer, Commissioner Wright?
Yeah,
Driving.
well, the cell phone issue, I don't know how they're gonna resolve that. And I don't travel on the highways much, but I see it at intersections. And it's really annoying to people because the person is not watching the light changes to green. Very few cars can get through. And as a result, then 2 or 3 cars go through a red light because they think it's their turn. And it's just not a good situation for those people who are not responsible enough to put the cell phone down.
When my daughters were learning to drive, which was some time ago, but we of course lived in Rochester, my advice to them was to remember when they were driving downtown that half the people driving around downtown just got bad news. And they would be distracted themselves and they would be lost in their own thoughts. And so they should be patient with other drivers, even if it seems like they're being rude. It's because life has suddenly become much more complicated for them. And I'm wondering if we just couldn't extend that sort of, if all of us just could remember, the people at home that are watching this, let's be patient with each other. And as Commissioner Wright said, they're waiting at stop signs and they're not starting because it seems as if their phones have become their friends now. Um, and so it's like they're talking to their friend in the car. We will find some of us will even find ourselves, I think, in those kind of situations. So I'm supporting Abby and Scott that we let us be kind and patient with each other as we get through this again. That's
Commissioner, I
just
would
my
love
mom
to.
talk, my mom part coming out.
Commissioner, I would love to have you be a speaker at our statewide TZD conference. That was so, you touched my heart. When I was a trooper and a lieutenant, I would try to stress we got to look at the human side first. When we stop somebody, they're not the speeder, they're not the drunk first. That's a category they might fit into, but we always got to remember first and most foremost, we're dealing with people. And we have to address and understand their humanity. And thank you for so eloquently saying that. Jessica, why don't you talk with the commissioner after and see if we can get her signed up for a future conference? Yeah, and I'm serious. that was I'd love to more people to hear that.
Good
Well,
reminder.
thank you. Any more comments towards zero deaths? Do we need, so it was an update. You're not asking us to do anything but pay attention and be patient with other people. Thank you for
Correct.
all that you're doing.
Thanks.
Can I just add, you're very fortunate for the folks you have over there. I used to live over there, now I live by Mankato, but what a dedicated, committed group of folks, whether it's on the education, media, or law enforcement side. Michelle Ness, I've worked with her a number of years. She's actually sacrificed her career due to her commitment to keeping us all safe on our roadways, and yet um, when her career changed, she didn't give up. She just refocused and found another way to help. So, and Jessica just kind of keeps us all rolling together. So, you're very fortunate. And Abby, thanks.
Mhm. Okay, thank you all for that update. And we will move on now to the American Rescue Plan Act Funding Board recommendations.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. Wilfredo Romancatala, Olmsted County Chief Financial Officer. Um, and today we're going to be seeking approval from you, the board, from a number of initiatives and high-level budgets regarding the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. This is Section 603 of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, as we will call them as we move forward. So far, we have received about half the funds allocated to Olmsted County. We've received about 50 million out of 15.3 million out of 30 point some million dollars. So let me take the time here to talk a little bit about three different slides that are coming up. Number one, all three related to vulnerable populations and the focus of the ARPA funding, especially what we're talking about today. Number one here is about affordable housing. We understand how significant and important it is for our community, for our residents to have affordable housing. Um, um, Number one, here we'll see that we'll be investing about $5 million of a new county program that will help us incentivize the addition of affordable housing stock in our county. Number two, we have about $10 million investment that we'll be partnering with the Rochester Area Foundation and implementation of five-year investment plan also to create more affordable housing in Olmsted County, and leverage an investment of more than $200 million from other funding sources. We will be purchasing a building here in town in Rochester, the 105 Broadway Avenue North, to continue providing transitional housing um, to the homeless individuals. This particular property, we're going to be providing about $1 million in the ARPA funding with the balance from the HRA reserve to fund the remainder. And finally, in this slide, we have our Rochester Community Warming Center. We have about $100,000 worth of repairs. This property is owned by the county and operated by Catholic Charities of Southern Minnesota. So as you can see, in total, we have a very unprecedented $16.1 million of support for affordable housing and infrastructure and programs in Olmsted County.
Mr.
Yes.
Could we go back to that chart?
Yeah.
I will want to come back to this chart later and ask you a question because I think it doesn't quite reflect what my understanding of what we were intending to do. So if you could just kind of earmark, I'd like to come back to the slide at the end.
Yeah, if you want, we can.
Well, it just seems to me as we look at the 10 million, we are not necessarily putting all of that into affordable home ownership. If it goes to the coalition will be using it to look at a variety of housing supports, which might include rental housing or social housing. So I don't want the media to think that the focus is only on affordable home ownership because it's affordable rental, it's social housing, a variety of community needs.
Yeah, Commissioner, and that's accurate. It will be including a number of things in addition to affordable home ownership.
In addition to. And I just thought, since this is being covered by our media, we need to be clear that we're not putting all of the funding into home ownership.
Appreciate the clarification.
Thank you.
And part of this mitigation of the COVID impacts for a vulnerable population includes, number one, we're trying to house people. Now we need to make sure people have jobs, and this is where we're investing about $420,000 for workforce development training to support developing pathways to careers in construction trades in Olmsted County. The program will focus on provide job training and support for individuals interested in positions that have traditionally been hard to fill. So. And thirdly, here also regarding mitigation of COVID impacts to vulnerable population is the issue of truancy. So you have a home, family have a job, and now we need to have kids in school. So that's the other important component of this funding opportunity. We're putting together a package for about $120,000 for truancy prevention. This is basically a social worker liaison to the county schools. So they can work with families and bring kids back into the right track of school and keeping them also, in addition to that, helping with mental health type of issues related to the truancy prevention. Personnel costs directly related to COVID. So the county, both the public health and the attorney's office, we are proposing to fund, especially in public health here, about $120,000 to additional hours for school nurses to prepare, number one, for the upcoming school year, but also to help us as they transition from being deployed for 18 months into the new school year. So normally these individuals, they normally don't work over the summer hours. They're considered in that sense part-time because they work full-time during the school year, but then come back in the summer and they are away from the office. So this will be a one way to fund that type of work as they're getting ready, since they haven't had that opportunity to get prepared for the new school year. And then we have the Office of the County Attorney, where they are swamped with cases. They have about 5,000 additional cases that emerged during the pandemic that yet needs to be scheduled for trial. So hopefully, with these additional dollars, they can hire provisional staff that can alleviate the workload for the regular staff of the county attorney's office. And this is $500,000 for that particular initiative. We have about $1 million allocated to leverage technology and improve service delivery. This is specifically within our health, housing, and human services at the county. This will help us support interoperability, automation, conversion from paper to electronic processes, and access to data, and most importantly, ease um, of the interaction engaged with our customers, our clients. So making that interaction more effective, more efficient. So about $1 million here. We also are putting together a package working, our public works department is working with the city to fund about $500,000, $500,000 for Chester Heights Sewer District for key improvement in upgrades to the system. Um, And finally, what we have about a $1.2 million for Oxbow Nature Center to complete the Nature Center. The Nature Center is being funded by a multitude of funding mechanism through debt that was issued by the county, through grants from the state, and now finally we can close the gap here with using ARPA dollars from a very specific lost revenue provision. So as you recall, as we have explained in the past, there's plenty of flexibility within the new ARPA funding due to very specific guidance provided by the U.S. Treasury. They allow us to use ARPA funding for any regular type of work we do in the county, as long as it's related to that revenue reduction or revenue loss provision. So that's the area that gives us a great flexibility. And even though this is not really related to COVID, the guidance provided by the U.S. Treasury allow us to do this kind of work. So in summary, we have about $19.9 million that we're recommending to be approved by you today. Number one here, we have the mitigation on vulnerable population. This is the biggest amount, 16.6 million. Is more than 52% of the total ARPA funding going to help vulnerable populations. Number two, funding personal costs directly related to COVID. This is about 620,000. That's the public health and the attorney's office type of initiatives. We have number three, fund technology improvement needed in the health, health, and human services, about $1 million. Number four, we have the ARPA, various defined special projects. In this case, is the Chester Sewer District improvement, the 500,000. Number five, use the revenue recapture flexibility to help us fund and close or complete the funding for the Oxbow Nature Center. So all those items from 1 to 5 equates to the 19.9 million. That still leave us here, number 6, about 10.7 million of unallocated ARPA funds. And then the final total there is the 30.7 million, which is the total allocation to Olmsted County. So that concludes the presentation. Open for questions, comments from the board.
Comments, questions? I just want to say how pleased I am that we are going to increase employment opportunities and training for people. Our whole society is short of carpenters and plumbers and welders and electricians and masons, and to train people who want to do those jobs and have those kinds of skills is going to enhance everything, because it doesn't matter if we have money to build all sorts of homes if we don't have builders and carpenters and plumbers to to do it for us. So um, I think that is like putting a hand in a glove that fits very well. So I'm very pleased about those employment opportunities. Anything else that anyone wants to?
Are we approving this? Are we having a motion to approve?
There's Miss Welsh.
Yes, Ms. Welsh.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I just want to emphasize for the media that are here with us that I think this is a generational investment you're making in affordable housing. Almost $16 million into providing homes for people in Olmsted County, preventing homelessness. It's a huge investment, and it's one that I think this board can be really proud of. So,
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I absolutely concur with our administrator's comments. I mean, we had, as a board, we had choices with the flexibility of some of the revenue capture. We could have done a lot of things that simply displaced our costs. We've chosen not to do that. We're choosing as a board to invest in our community, and I know that the conversations we had as we looked at our options were always about what would be a legacy investment for the benefit of the community in the long run, not to solve an immediate budget problem, not to create take advantage of this funding for something we'd like to do. We spent a lot of time asking ourselves, what are the things, where can we make an investment that will really make life better for our residents and help our economy recover? And it's one of the times that sort of quietly you get to this point where we have the official vote after a lot of deep thought and a lot of reflection in our board retreats and a lot of good staff work to help us look at options, and a lot of proposals that came in from others saying, well, you could do this. And we did hear early on from Workforce Development Inc. We heard early on from the Coalition for Housing. We heard on from our partners in the school district. And so the relationships that we built over the years and the ways that our board is tied to some of these community partners helped inform our discussions. And so I think this has been it's really a wonderful place to be, where we say, as a board, we are going to look at the long run. We're going to take this one-time opportunity and say, what's the best investment in community? What's the best investment where we know we have issues? And how do we use these funds to leverage other kind of activity from the private sector and from other kind of community organizations? So it's a really good day. I'm really proud of us as a board. I'm proud of the staff work that happened to bring us to this point. And I'm not usually one who makes motions, so I'm going to wait for those who usually do, and I'm going to support them.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Wright?
Yeah, if there is silver linings, this is one of the silver linings that came out of COVID. I don't think that the federal government would have acted as they did had we not had this terrible, terrible situation. And so the money that has come to us has come from the federal government. And I want the people to know that the county board has acted very responsibly with receiving this money. I think the analogy is that sometimes when people inherit money, they don't always spend it wisely. But with the county, we were very deliberative about this. There's still money left unallocated that we will be talking about. But I would agree with Commissioner Cascaden that this is something for a legacy for the future, that we are really creating some things. And I think that as you will find more about how this money that we've used some very innovative ideas with Commissioner Flynn's ideas about how we can help people um, gain their own home. So those ideas will be coming out, I'm sure, with more information. So thank you very much.
Any other comments? Well, as I have said before, we sit in the shade of trees we didn't plant. So we can be grateful to people who did think ahead and plant those trees. And as Commissioner Wright and Commissioner Cascaden have said, these are decisions for the future and for the moving of well, we're trying to predict how things will be in 20 years, and hopefully people will look back and say, "Wow, that county board 2021, they really knew what they were doing." Let's hope that's what happens. So, do we need a motion about this to accept these recommendations?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Good for us. Good for the community. I'm wondering if Ashley has showed up yet?
Madam Chair, she is unable to be here today.
Okay.
So we move this to August 17th.
Okay, that's fine then. And board and committee reports? We can start with Commissioner Beer. Anything?
We had a ROCOG meeting, and one of the topics of discussion was MnDOT had talking about putting in the J turns at 3 and County Road 44, and I had a few opinions on that.
I bet.
We heard.
Yeah, and it was very well covered in the PB. I just like it noted that we're going to have a little. I had 100% agreement from our city staff, our city councilman, the mayor, that we really think the J turns are not appropriate at that, and we should really be focusing on getting an overpass, a grade separation there. So that took probably about 90% of the ROCOG meeting. So other than that, not much else going on. We had a nice retreat, but somebody else will probably cover that. So thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Flynn?
Actually, I really don't have much, Stephanie. Like Jim said, our retreat went well. I think what we just did accomplished, like as you said, we're looking into the future, and that's government. That's us.
Thank you. Commissioner Tyne?
No report.
Commissioner Cascaden?
I want to report on something that Commissioner Ty and Commissioner Boyk and I heard at the Health and Human Services Committee meeting. There's so much that happens within our Health and Human Services division that we don't hear about very often, but it relates directly to proclaiming Child Support Awareness Month. So as this happens, then we had staff come in and talk to us about their experience with some case studies. And I honestly was totally unaware that we have changed our philosophy about child support in a very positive direction. So when you hear child support, in my past history, I haven't had to pay it, haven't been to court about it, but what I know about it is, you have a court order to pay child support, and if you don't pay, you're punished. And we have enforcement people that go out and hold you accountable and garnish your wages and do everything they can so that you pay to support your children. But our staff has said, wait a minute, that parent is still a parent, and that parent has a relationship with those children. And let's look at what the strengths are of the situation within that family and see if we can create change, not just enforce. And so we heard a very direct story about someone who literally had gotten to the place that the parent who owned child support was homeless. And instead of punishing the person, holding them in jail, which actually would cost the taxpayers more money, give them shelter, but could cost the taxpayers money, our staff worked with this person, got them through drug court, got them into a job, got them to the place that they are this person is now in a relationship with all the children that he has a job, is paying his child support. Now that's remarkable. It takes a lot of patience. It's better for society. It's certainly better for that family. And it's another indication of how our staff have tried to do a strengths-based approach, have tried to look at individuals and their enforcement duties as opportunities to motivate for change rather than only focused on accountability or whatever you might. I was very impressed with that report, and and it just seems to me that we take for granted sometimes that within our Health, Housing, Human Services division, there's a lot of innovation happening, and there's a lot of focus on well-being, not just what's my job duty or what can we get done, but how can we do it better to really create change. And I was very taken with that, and I wanted to report to you because the committee hears these stories. We don't hear them all as a full board, and we don't necessarily see all the ways that we are creating momentum for people to succeed. And that's my report. Well done, Child Support Enforcement Division.
Thank you. Commissioner Wright?
Yeah, thank you very much. I believe that the Olmsted County Corn Tower has now been repainted. And I want to remind people that although that many people think that it's a Rochester symbol, it is now an Olmsted County symbol because it was paid for by the county, not the city of Rochester. And I think that it will stand now for another 50 years as the Olmsted County Corn Tower. And the other thing is, yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry, Madam Chair, Commissioner Wright, you may want to mention for any public listening that we are planning a dedication of the Corn Tower on the 25th of September. That's a Saturday. It'll be during the same time frame as Farmers Market, so we're hoping many public that can come out and just admire the new paint job.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and
Here that our county administrator is going to climb to the top of it.
Or maybe a certain commissioner.
and lastly, it's more or less of a comment. We just heard about Towards Zero Death and the responsibility of people to do their part. But I find the parallels between Towards Zero Death on the highways is very similar to Towards Zero Death on COVID. I'm not exactly sure what to make about that, but I think that some of the responsibilities are about the same. That we all have a responsibility to each other, not just our own individual ideas about what's right and what's wrong. But there are similarities. I guess I'll have to let you decide what those similarities are. Thanks.
Thank you. I wanted to report two things. We had a ribbon cutting for the Southeast Regional Crisis Center. And as we've said about that center, it's the right time, the right place, and the right services. 24/7 walk-in services, regardless of your ability to pay. If you are experiencing a mental health crisis, no matter what your age, there will be someone there all day and night to help you through that crisis. That was a big effort, took a long time, and it's much needed. And we want to thank people at the legislature, especially Senator Senjum, who helped us get the money for that. And it looks as if there may be some others being established around the state. So that is great. I just also wanted you to know that Commissioner Cascaden and I had a meeting with our new school superintendent, with Superintendent Peckle, to welcome him to the community and to make sure that we have a cordial relationship between the school district and the county. And now that we are seemingly to be this is my quote part of the meeting. Um, I was thinking about how discouraged some of us are. Maybe I'm projecting myself onto some of you, but I am discouraged about having to go back in masks and seeing more people dying and getting sick again, and thinking we had conquered this, and it hasn't left us yet. So this was a comment of Franklin D. Roosevelt after the Depression, which affected so many people, and I'm thinking COVID could maybe historically fit into that kind of place later. What he said was, on the farms, in the large metropolitan areas, in the smaller cities, and in the villages, millions of our citizens cherish the hope that their old standards of living and of thought have not gone forever. Those millions cannot and shall not hope in vain. I pledge myself to a new deal for the American people. And I see the Center for Disease Control trying to do the same for all of us. That's my quote. And if there's no other business, we can be adjourned.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.